The wind carried the scent of dry earth and wild sage across the open plains as the sun sank low, painting the horizon in streaks of orange and crimson. Sarah Whitfield stood on the porch of her father's farmhouse, her dress fluttering in the evening wind, her heart restless. For months now, fear had been a part of her days, fear of raids, of drought, of the endless tension that hung over the borderlands. But that night, her fear had a face. It came in the form of smoke rising in the distance, just beyond their cornfield. She could smell it even before her father did. "They're close," he whispered, his hand tightening around the rifle. Her father, Robert Whitfield, was a man of land, rugged, fair, and fiercely protective of what he built with his own hands. The farm was their life, and he would defend it to his last breath. But neither of them knew that the man who would ultimately save their land wasn't a soldier, nor a neighbor, but an Apache. It happened just after midnight. The coyotes had gone silent, and the only sound was the creaking of the windmill. Sarah couldn't sleep. She had heard stories, some true, some not, of Apache warriors raiding farms at night. She stayed near the window, clutching her father's old pistol, praying the night would pass. Then she heard it, the sound of horses, fast, many of them. Before her father could reach the door, a band of riders swept through the field, torches blazing, their shouts echoing through the valley. The farm was under attack. Robert fired 2 warning shots, shouting for Sarah to stay inside, but the chaos outside drowned everything. Horses screamed, fire caught on dry hay, and for a moment, Sarah thought they would lose everything. But in that chaos, something unexpected happened. One of the riders, bare-chested, painted with streaks of red and white, turned against the others. His voice, deep and commanding, cut through the noise as he struck down one of his own. The others hesitated, confused, then scattered into the dark. The stranger fought fiercely, his movements precise, protecting the barn, defending what wasn't even his. When the dust settled, only silence remained, and a wounded Apache lay at the edge of the field. Robert aimed his rifle again, his hands trembling, but Sarah stepped forward. "He saved us," she whispered. "If he wanted us dead, he wouldn't have stopped them." Against every instinct her father had, she kneeled beside the man. His shoulder was bleeding from a bullet wound, his face painted with blood and dust, but his eyes, dark and steady, met hers with a strange calm. He didn't speak, he just stared at her, breathing hard, as if trying to decide whether she was real. They brought him inside, against her father's protests. Sarah cleaned his wound with trembling hands. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, raspy. "Name's Taji," he said. "Didn't come to steal, came to stop them." Sarah didn't know what to say. Her father paced behind her, muttering that this was madness, helping a man who might be the enemy. But Sarah couldn't turn away. There was something in the Apache's eyes that spoke of loss, of honor, of a man caught between 2 worlds. Days passed, and Taji stayed. He could barely move at first, but he refused to rest long. Every morning, despite his wound, he insisted on helping, fixing fences, carrying water, repairing the damage the raiders had left. Robert tried to send him away, but the Apache wouldn't leave. "Your land was burned because of me," Taji said one evening, his voice steady as he looked out over the fields. "My people, some of them don't listen anymore. They fight for revenge, I fight to protect." Robert didn't answer, but something softened in his eyes. He had lost a son years ago in a border skirmish, and maybe he saw a trace of him in this proud, broken warrior. Sarah watched the 2 men in silence. She had never met anyone like Taji before. He moved differently, spoke little, and when he looked at the land, it was as if he saw it breathe. One evening, she found him standing by the river, hands in the cold water, whispering words in a language she didn't know. "You pray?" she asked softly. He turned to her, his expression unreadable. "Not pray," he said. "Listen, the land speaks. You just forgot how to hear." His words stayed with her long after he walked away. The weeks turned into months. The harvest was harder that year, but Taji worked like he owed his life to the soil. He built irrigation channels from the river, showing Robert techniques his ancestors had used for centuries. The farm began to heal. So did the people on it. Sarah found herself laughing again, something she hadn't done since her mother passed away. Taji rarely smiled, but when he did, it was like the sun broke through the storm. Then, one morning, soldiers came. Dust rose behind their wagons as they approached, armed and rigid. They were searching for an Apache warrior accused of desertion and betrayal, of helping settlers. Robert's jaw tightened. Sarah's heart dropped. They described Taji. He's a traitor to his people and a threat to yours, the captain said. If you've seen him, speak now. Taji stepped out from behind the barn, unarmed, calm. I'll go, he said quietly. Sarah ran forward. No, you saved us. You can't just give yourself up. But he only looked at her, his dark eyes steady. It's not your fight. Robert stood beside his daughter, rifle in hand. The hell it isn't. This man saved my land, my life, my child. You'll not take him. The soldiers hesitated. The captain warned him that harboring an Apache meant punishment. Robert didn't flinch. Then punish me. But you'll leave him be. That night, Taji sat by the fire, silent. Sarah couldn't bear the thought of losing him. Why won't you stay? She asked, tears glistening in her eyes. Because I don't belong here, he said softly. Your people see me as a savage. Mine see me as a traitor. There's no place for me now. She shook her head. There's a place here, with us, with me. He looked away, his jaw tightening. Between two worlds, Sarah, I cannot belong to either. He tried to leave the next morning, but Robert stopped him. You protected my farm, the old man said, his voice rough with emotion. My father used to say, a man who saves your land deserves a place on it. And, my daughter has something to tell you. Sarah stepped forward, her heart pounding. My father says I must marry you, she said softly, half smiling through her tears. But truth is, I want to. Taji froze. The air between them was heavy with all the words they hadn't said. Your people won't forgive you for this, he said. Then let them, she whispered. They didn't see what I saw. They didn't see your heart. He took a step closer, his hand brushing hers. My world is different, he said. We don't own land, we belong to it, and if I stay, he paused, searching her eyes. Then I belong to you. They were married quietly under the oak tree near the river. No priest, no guests, just the earth, the wind, and two souls who had found each other in the middle of chaos. Robert stood behind them, tears in his eyes. He never thought his daughter would find love in the man he once called an enemy. But in that moment, he saw no difference between them. The years that followed were not easy. Some neighbors turned their backs. Rumors spread, but Taji never left. He built a home beside the river, raised horses, and taught Sarah the ways of his people, how to read the wind, how to track the rain, how to listen to silence. She taught him how to plant wheat, how to mend fences, how to laugh without fear. Together, they built something stronger than any wall or weapon, trust. One harsh winter, sickness spread across the valley. The settlers were desperate, and medicine was scarce. Sarah fell ill first, then others. Taji rode for miles into the mountains, returning with herbs and roots his grandmother once taught him to use. He saved more lives than anyone could count, including the very people who once called him an outsider. And when spring came, the same soldiers who had once sought to arrest him came back, not to take him away, but to thank him. Years later, when Robert passed away, Sarah and Taji buried him under the same oak where they were married. Sarah placed his old rifle beside the grave and whispered, he finally found peace. Taji nodded. He learned what my people always knew, he said softly. The earth remembers kindness. As time passed, the world around them changed. The borderlands grew quieter, fences taller, machines louder. But the farmhouse remained, an island of old stories and quiet strength. Children from nearby towns would come to listen to the tales Sarah told about the Apache who wouldn't leave, the man who turned enemies into family, the man who stood between two worlds and chose love. On the night Taji died, the wind was gentle, carrying the scent of rain. Sarah sat beside him, holding his hand. Do you regret staying? She asked through tears. His voice was weak but calm. No, the land gave me a place. You gave me a reason. She smiled, her heart breaking and healing all at once. And you gave me both. His hand grew still, but his spirit lingered, as if woven into the very earth beneath them. Years later, people said that whenever the wind blew through the valley, you could hear two voices whispering beneath the oak, the farmer's daughter and the Apache who wouldn't leave. Because love, like the land, remembers everything.